Wondering what you should be putting in your prepper pantry, what you should be stocking up on? Well, today I'm going to be giving you my top 10 grain-based prepper pantry items. And you're not just going to be hearing from me, you're going to be hearing from someone else as well. Hey everyone, welcome back to Grains and Grit. My name is Felicia, and on this channel, we talk about all the things concerning real whole grains from a biblical perspective. We talk about freshly milled wheat, using those grains, stocking up on them for your prepper pantry, anything and everything. So if you're new here, like many of you are, welcome. And if you've been around for a while, you know I love you guys, and welcome back. Today, this video is actually a collaboration with Katie over at Rowes Rising. Katie is all about holistic homemaking and cooking nourishing meals from scratch. And she's also posted a ton of videos lately about stocking up your prepper pantry. And so we decided to come together to do a collaborating video for you guys. So what I'm going to be talking about is my top 10 grain-based items that I like to keep stocked in my own prepper pantry. And in her video, she's going to be talking about her favorite top 10 items in general to keep in her prepper pantry. So be sure to check Katie's video out over at Rowes Rising. I will be putting that in the description box below. You can also find her on Instagram, which I think is where we first connected, maybe here on YouTube. And then she also has a website. So all the things regarding Katie, I'm going to be putting that below, but be sure to check her out. I've actually gotten some great recipes from her. We think a lot alike as far as having to cook for a tribe of many, prepper pantry, all of those wonderful things. So be sure to check out her video after you watch this one. All right, so let's get to it. We're going to be talking about my top 10 must-have items in my prepper pantry, but they're all grain-based. And the reason I wanted to base it on grains is, well, this channel is called Grains and Grit, but also because I am obviously very, very passionate about grains, that they should be the staple of your prepper pantry. And for those who really want to dive deeper in all of this, and you really want to hear all of my secrets, I actually have a brand new course out, How to Master Prepping with Grains, to help you stock your prepper pantry up with grains. That was just released a week ago. We're still in the launch phase, so be sure to check that out if you haven't. For those who have purchased the course, thank you so very much for purchasing from me. It helps support this channel and keep it going. So again, all of those will be in the description box below, and I will also put them in the pinned comment to help it be easier to find as well. All right, so here we go. Top 10 grain-based items in my prepper pantry. Number 1, shouldn't surprise you, is hard red wheat berries. But I also have to mention number 2, which is hard white wheat berries. And honestly, these kind of are so closely related, it's kind of hard to separate them. So for those who do not know, hard wheat berries are what you need for your yeast breads. And honestly, like, I have both. People always ask me, if I had to choose between hard red or hard white, what would you choose? And frankly, I would not. I like having both. Hard red is an excellent wheat berry. It's gonna get you consistent yeast loaves every single time. When you buy bread flour from the store, the fake flour from the store that's bread flour, it's generally made from hard red wheat berries. It is the most dominating wheat berry in this country. Now, hard white, I really like because it does have a milder flavor. The bread actually turns out a bit whiter looking, but ultimately they are excellent. I do find that hard white tends to be slightly softer of a yeast loaf, but hard red is great as well. Hard red does have more of that whole wheaty, nutty texture. Hard white is a bit milder. So they're used for different things. I even love combining them for yeast bread. So honestly, I rather just have both. So I always make sure I keep hard red and hard white wheat berries. But if you're looking to stock up your prepper pantry and are unable to find one of those, just stick with at least one. Now, number 3, of course, you know what's coming if you've watched me before, soft white wheat berries. I've got to have, I always tell people that you need a hard wheat for your yeast breads and you need your soft white wheat for your baked goods. So these are your biscuits, if you want cakes, anything like that. Now, soft white wheat is not going to get you your tall yeast loaves, but it is excellent for all those baked goods. I use it in my cornbread as well, muffins, pancakes. While you can still use the hard red or hard white in muffins and pancakes, those are great too. So, you know, sometimes I want a different flavor, and a texture, and I go with soft white wheat. So soft white wheat is definitely needed for those baked goods. So those are 1, 2, and 3. And again, if you've been around long enough, those shouldn't surprise you. Now, number 4 of grains that I insist on having for my prepper pantry is brown rice. Now, I've mentioned brown rice before, and I actually have been getting a comment of people saying, oh, we should store white rice because it lasts much longer. And frankly, my answer to that is God made brown rice, not white rice. Brown rice has the bran and the germ intact. And frankly, I haven't had a problem with storing it. I just make sure that I freeze my rice before I store them in buckets. And if you want to know how I store all my grains, I have a video all about storing the grains, and I really dive in detail in my course. So be sure to check out, I'll link that video in the description box below. And as far as what type of brown rice, I mean, because it can get a little crazy. You have basmati rice, wild rice, jasmine, I mean, like all the things. I just generally go with a typical long grain brown rice, and it suits pretty much everything that I need to use it for. Number 5 is corn. Now, I love to keep dried corn on hand. It can be white dent corn or yellow dent corn. Dent corn is generally the dry corn that you can purchase. I always like to get organic to make sure that it's not a GMO corn. But with dried corn, it stores for a while. This is also another grain that I freeze before storing in my containers. Again, all that's in the video and in my course. But with corn, I mill it to make my corn meal. For cornbread, I also mill it coarsely for grits. And then, of course, I can nixtamalize it to make corn tortillas and hominy grits and all the things. So we love Mexican food around here. We love authentic corn tortillas. That's why I keep those on hand. And also, we are very Southern, so we gotta have the grits on hand as well. And I do plan on making a full video all about grits and tortillas. Now I'm waiting for some things to come in. So I do plan on doing those in the future. But again, dried corn, it's going to be dent corn, yellow or white, doesn't matter. They kind of generally work both the same. All right, number 6, 7, and 8. I went ahead and divided these up. We're going to be getting into dried beans. And my go-to dried beans are black beans, Great Northern beans, and pinto beans. I highly recommend these because these are just the beans I use the most. Now, in regards to dried beans, if you use other beans, by all means, get those. Get what you use the most. But these are what I use the most. And with these beans, I can pretty much do anything. So pinto beans are great. You also can make refried beans with them. Black beans are wonderful as well, especially over some rice. And then, of course, Great Northern beans. I have different recipes with that as well. So dried beans are definitely a must, and those are my top 3 that I focus on. But again, choose to stock up on whatever beans you and your family love. Number 9, I haven't mentioned yet, not a food item, but you need a grain mill, kind of a duh. So not an actual food item, but it is so needed for your prepper pantry. Now, I have done a video about how to choose a grain mill. I have done a full review on my Nutri-Mill Harvest Stone Grind grain mill. My first grain mill was a Wonder Mill Impact Mill, which I love as well. I still have Miss Wanda Wonder Mill, and I've got Miss Nancy Nutri-Mill Harvest back there. So those are my electric grain mills, but I highly encourage an actual hand mill, grain mill that's not electric for, because this is a prepper pantry in case you do not have electricity. And I have done a video reviewing a cheaper hand mill that actually worked pretty well. That'll be linked below. And I'm currently waiting on the ultimate hand mill that I've been waiting on for forever, and that is the Wonder Junior Deluxe grain mill. And I'm so excited for that to come in, but it's on back order, and so I have to wait patiently. But that's the hand mill that I'm going to be getting, and once I get it, I'll be doing a full review for you. But you do want a grain mill so you can mill those grains to make bread, cornmeal, all the things. And again, I have videos about choosing a grain mill and all that down in the description box below. And last but not least, number 10 is basically all the miscellaneous food type items I need to use my grains. This includes yeast Gotten a lot of questions about what type of yeast. I use instant yeast or active dry yeast, whichever one. Now, I do recommend go ahead and buying the yeast that is vacuum sealed. That way, you can just keep it in your pantry unopened and it'll last a long time. But when I open my yeast, I generally stick it in my freezer just to make it last even longer. But I go through it so fast, it kind of doesn't matter, but I do it just to make sure. Other items is my oil. I generally use peanut oil or olive oil. Things like coconut oil is fine, or avocado oil, whatever oil you like to have on hand. We use that a lot in our baking. Also honey as a great sweetener in my breads. My basic recipe calls for honey sweetener. And then of course you have your typical baking soda, baking powder, and then your seasonings. And my go-to seasonings are salt, pepper, garlic powder, onion powder, Italian seasoning, cumin, and cinnamon. And I could keep going on, but I'm going to stop there. But bottom line is whatever spices you use the most, make sure you always keep those on hand, because if you have good seasoning and good salt, which by the way, I do recommend Redmond's real salt. I love that salt, and I do have a coupon code for you guys, link below. But with good seasonings, you can make anything taste good, even if you do not have any fresh vegetables or anything like that to go with your grains. So basically just with these items, I can do anything. And that's what you need to think about. When you have your grains, then think about what all do I use with those grains, and make sure you keep those on stock. All right, so there you go. That's my top 10-ish grain-based items that I must always have on hand in my prepper pantry. Now, with that being said, I know that it can be overwhelming when it comes to a prepper pantry. You see people like me where we have land and chickens and livestock and gardens and things like that. But you can do this even with grains in a little apartment in the middle of a city. And that's why I did my course, because it's for everyone. So be sure, I highly recommend checking out my course, How to Master Prepping with Grains. And finally, be sure to check out Katie's video over at Rowes Rising. Rowes, R-O-W-E-S Rising. Again, I will be linking her below to check out what she has to say about what her top 10 overall prepper pantry items are. And be sure to follow her on Instagram as well. She does some great stories just like I do. And follow me on Instagram at grainsandgrit. I give you a little, I generally pop on there, especially in the stories with current recipes or whatever it is that I'm doing, just kind of what pops in my head. And also be sure to check out our membership group. We do have a membership group with Grains and Grit that we have a private MeWe group. So if you're looking for community, that's an excellent place to do it. Also, we have a private podcast, and they get weekly recipe emails as well. So thank you so very much for watching. I hope that this was helpful. And again, be sure to check out Katie's video over at Rowes Rising. Thank you so very much for watching, and have a wonderful day.